Welcome back to the show with the informers of the podcast show. We give you all the stuff and all the topics and the movies and the games and the TV and the anime. Welcome back, everybody, to NMI When You Need More Info, a podcast about the movies of a podcast exploring the movies and video games. Do you know what, people? Screw it. The intro did it for me. I can't even do my normal intro because the lovely musical intro I had just didn't work. It just didn't work. Yeah, honestly, it's good to be back there, people. Again, like a podcast on the world of movies, video games, and TV shows. I'm your host, Nate. Today, I'm joined by Fergus.
Hello, everyone.
And welcoming back, Mr. James.
Hello.
Hello, James. How you been, man? It's been a little bit.
It's been a little while, yeah. No, it's been. I've been good. Haven't been up to anything that exciting, but still watching plenty of films and playing games in my spare time.
Did you go see Bullet Train?
I have not seen that yet. Actually, it's one of my films I want to watch, so I have not seen that.
Hopefully, it's following that 45-day rule where we'll basically be able to watch it in probably in October. So hopefully that's the case.
Nice. Yeah, look forward to it.
And we'll probably do a review for that people when it comes out. But again, returning again this week is the lovely Fergus. How are you, sir?
Hello, I am good, thanks. Very tired, to be honest. I've been woken up several nights in a row by rogue thunderstorms.
I sent I played a He-Man soundtrack clip. Ironically, links to tonight's topic, people. A He-Man soundtrack clip of his first transformation of the animated series. Now, as the music was ramping up, I was like, I could feel the power coursing through my veins, the lightning in my hands, for I have the power. And I just sent that to a couple of friends. Jordan was one of them, and he was just like, "For fuck's sake, Nate! For fuck's sake!"
Creating thunderstorms, are you?
If I wasn't singing before the rain started, so I know that's a running joke my family have. But no, it's good to have you back, the man. It's so sad you've been woken up a few times. It wasn't the partying people this time. It was the partying sky.
No, it was the sky. It was the sky. I was partying this weekend though. I was hanging out in Soho on Saturday.
Very nice.
Went to D64, the nightclub with all of the arcade machines in it. I felt really old, but people half my age are going out for a night out to play games that are about the same age as me.
That's depressing, isn't it, really?
Yeah, a little.
To think our age, Sonic was first coming out, or Mario was first coming out at our age.
Yeah,
and
that's what they're playing. Yeah, or later. Rock Band's become a thing. Classic game, Rock Band.
Oh, wow, yeah. I mean, to be fair, that was coming out I say myself and you, Fergus. I know James is going to make his I'm older comment in a second, but,
Fine. Stop highlighting my age. It's not like I'd ever do that.
Yeah, exactly. He never does that, people.
All this ageism. Christ.
I know. How dare we remind people that James reminds us all the time, every now and then. But no, I mean, Rock Band came out in 2006, between 2006 2010, I want to say. So, probably earlier than that, to be honest.
It was probably about, I want to say 2006, 2007, maybe. It was around about that time.
Yeah, because when I went to university, DJ Hero came out, and that was a thing which I regret buying. Wow, that was a major regret buying. But yeah, no, myself, feeling mostly better now. Still on the mend. Still been watching The Rings of Power. The racist, bigoted, whatever the people are throwing trash at the show can fuck off, because Amazon have had to bring in a policy now where they stop reviews for 72 hours after an episode comes out. So basically, they're trying to bring down the review bombing, because the show got massively review bombed, which is disgusting in my opinion. The money's there, the money really is there from the first 2 episodes they showed, but I think the story needs a little bit more. Myself, I think The Boys did a similar thing where they released the first 3 episodes and then they continue weekly. Depending on how this next episode goes, I think maybe they should have done that as well, because I think there was a lot of setup, gorgeous setup and everything with all the characters and appeal, but I think it just needed a bit more. Outside of that, just been replaying Spider-Man, because I was hoping to get some Spider-Man 2 news soon, but we didn't get that. And also, I bought The Last of Us remake. So I'm finally playing that again. Looking forward to you, James, finally giving that a play when it comes to PC.
What The Last of Us? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and hopefully The Last of Us 2 will be announced soon after that. Because I think if you bring in the first part, you can't not bring part 2 as well. Yeah, exactly. But yes, people, obviously last week we got into our... what did we get into? Oh, it was the Future Games Show roundup and the Gamescom wrap up and how we felt about it. I kind of expected a few more things. It was definitely more indie heavy. Definitely go listen to the episode. But folks, do you have any final thoughts, reflection a week later?
To be honest, I have not followed up on any of the games that they're all in my Steam wish list, and they're going to be sitting there until they come out or not. But they're now part of a list that's easily 200 games strong. So just added to the backlog of the hundreds of games that I need. These are the ones I haven't even bought yet.
Oh no, exactly. Yeah.
I'll be playing some of them, but
fair enough. Are there any games from actually we never spoke to you about it, James, very briefly? Are there any games from Gamescom or Future Game Show that caught your eye?
Oh, mate, I didn't really follow that particular event, which is why I skipped the previous sessions podcast.
Well, maybe we'll come back to it later. I know Moonbreaker is definitely getting a lot of attention at the moment. I've signed up for the early access myself. Also, it's not Gamescom, but it's been released now. Rollerdrome. It's getting a lot of praise in the gaming community at the moment.
Yeah, there is quite a lot of hype around an indie game. So it looks like it's going to be quite successful.
Exactly, people. But yes, people, that was our last week's episode. This week is going to be an interesting episode for copyright purposes because we're going to get into it, people. Basically, this week, as you probably heard last week, we've been working on a lot of topics recently. We've been trying to figure out how we could go about bringing you all that lovely content. Obviously, October is saved for all the horror-based content, or the more spooky, the more spoopy content. Also, the Dark Pictures Anthology Roundup series, which I'm definitely looking forward to doing, to be honest, because I've held off playing those games. I've heard Man of Medan is mid, but I've heard the others are really good. And I'm really looking forward to playing The Devil in Me a bit down the line. But when it comes to that, though, really looking forward to October, and also the comfort movies and games for Christmas, because we all love to snuggle in with those lovely TV shows that we just like to sit back and watch. Hopefully, The Witcher probably isn't going to be coming out at Christmas again this year. Probably be a summer show now, but you never know. They could come out and and The Witcher's coming out at Christmas, and that'd be a shock, to be honest. But I'd love that.
That additional Netflix series they brought out, The Witcher Fireplace, was probably the most watched show in my household over Christmas last year. So
two things. Witcher Fireplace?
Yes, they released a Netflix maybe 2 hours long of just the fire roaring in thing.
Okay.
James is like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Well, the other thing I was actually going to mention is that there is a new Witcher show which should be released by end of the year, and that is Blood Origins, the prequel to Witcher.
With Lenny Henry in it as well, which I'm loving the fact he is in The Witcher and the Lord of the Rings prequel. That is absolutely amazing, in my opinion. 2 big properties on 2 major streaming platforms. But yes, people, this week we are going to be getting into our favorite movie soundtracks. Now, I don't know how you guys found it, but it was actually extremely difficult to do this list, to be honest.
It was a tricky one. Yeah.
I found it very well. The hard thing for me was to not make it all of one particular composer that I really, really like.
Oh yeah, and we can all guess. He's on my list for one thing. I already know who it is. So yeah, it's we'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, so we got honorable mentions. We've got all that stuff there. We won't be doing a top 5 because I think music is so subjective. It's actually really difficult to place these songs within a list themselves. I think the better way to go about this is what emotions are elicited, or what we feel from these tracks. I think that's probably a better way to go about it, and how we felt about these tracks, because I think you can't really put it down to that at the end of the day. But yeah, no, that's what we're going to do today, people. Just to preface, when you do listen to this episode, please look at the description for the episode. What we're going to be doing is, I think the best way to go about this is we're going to be releasing a Spotify playlist for the episode. The playlist will contain some tracks from each of the films we select. Myself, I've picked a few tracks for a few films. Other ones just had the main theme. But also, I'm actually looking at creating either a Google playlist or a Spotify, a YouTube playlist that people can refer to. Because I think, if you're listening on your phone, maybe just go and listen to the tracks later on after you've listened to the episode. If you listen to it on computer, I'm going to try and create multiple different playlists so you have the opportunity to listen to the music along with the episode as we go through, because that way you can get immersed in it more. But yeah, I think that's probably the best, that's probably the safest way I've actually tried to figure out how to go about doing this, to be honest, because we were talking about using 10 to 15 second snippets. If people out there have any idea on what we could do in that regard, can we use copyrighted music to some degree? Because I know people can react to TV shows, they can react to all this stuff, and music is heard. Sometimes they actually pause the music when they're actually doing it. But if you have any ideas of that, people, I think that's probably the best way to go. And regarding the news for these shows, we're still in the process of working out how to go about doing the news episodes and the topic episodes. We will be covering D23, the video game show and the movie show. Also, Ubisoft Forward. Probably look for that episode next Tuesday. We're actually looking at maybe doing the episodes on a Tuesday and a Friday. It won't be every week, most likely, because sometimes news is very light. Also, those episodes probably won't be an hour long. They're probably maybe 30 to 40 minutes at most. So, that lovely train or bus commute. But right, people, it is time to get into that sweet, sweet music. How about yourself, guys? Are you ready to delve into the fine tunes that we have today?
Yes, I think so. I think this is going to be an interesting show. Oh
yeah, most definitely indeed. How about yourself, James? You ready to go? You ready? You pumped?
Yeah. I've already composed my list. It's ready to go.
All right, people. It is time to flip that screen on YouTube, and we are going to get into our first. Let's get into our honorable mentions. I'm going to go first this week because I think since I've probably got the most honorable mentions, it's probably best if I do that. So, people, what we do is on the Discord server, we actually like to share our screens so we actually can get an idea of what we're actually looking at. So, my first movie is The Terminator. Not Terminator 2, The Terminator. It's composed and performed on a synthesizer by Brad Fiedel. This is a less more orchestral version of the Terminator theme song. I think also it has the more slow burn aspect to what the original film has, because the original film is more like a stalker movie. I actually do prefer this theme to the second theme song in Terminator 2. Don't get me wrong, still both amazing, and obviously it's become such a synonymous part of movie pop culture. But yeah, this is my first honorable mention, is The Terminator by Brad Fiedel. So go listen to it, people. Dropping onto my next one, it's the lovely film that I mention on most of my podcast shows, and this usually comes up a lot of the time, especially on a gaming show. It's the Clendathu drop from Starship Troopers. This is composed by Basil Polidoris. It actually took over 6 months to compose this. And again, it was actually, supposed to be a realistic background to what the character was experiencing. And, the passion is going off of the Wikipedia at the moment. But again, love this film. I think having the the initial drop into the actual environment really does play this, and also I think it definitely plays into the fact that this does feel like video game music. And I think a lot of people I've spoken to, when they play games like XCOM and stuff like that, like myself, they play this music track, to be honest, because it's just so powerful in regards to its military aspect as well. Quickly moving along, again, people just running through these very quickly. Quickly moving along, we have Dread. Obviously, I mentioned this quite a few times before, but it's composed by Paul Leonard Morgan. Wrote the industrial music for the score of the film. I think I love the intro track to this movie. It's called Mega City 1. The track is called. It's basically the intro for the film. It's Dread's first appearance in the film. When he first plays, he's like, okay, this man's got his shit sorted. And it also really sets up the visual aesthetic of the griminess and the actual, the very low sci-fi. The low sci-fi feel of this film, it doesn't feel like a high sci-fi film. It feels like a very low comic book sci-fi movie, and it really does pull that off. Also, it does really show the visual aesthetic of this movie as well, with the slow-mo effect. And again, absolutely stunning in my opinion. Absolutely stunning. Right, quickly moving along. Now, This is an interesting one because again, this isn't like fully like film soundtrack, but it's more a composition track. There is composed songs in this, but also there are like, official songs to go with it. I'm talking about now this is two songs now, people. It's the Rocky IV film, the training montage, and Hearts on Fire. This was composed by Vince DiCola. Again, he would later go on to compose the Transformers, the animated movie back in the 80s. Bill Conti obviously did some music for this movie, but he was too busy doing. Bill Conti does the other films, but he was too busy doing the Karate Kid movies. So Also, this film actually includes stuff like living in America with James Brown, Kenny Loggins, Survivor. Again, it's a whole bunch of mega 80 stars. And again, if you're at the gym or you just try to power through town, you just want to really get the heart going, but then move as fast as you can and feel good doing it, definitely listen to these two songs. I mean, we got copyrighted. No, I'm joking. Right. Moving on to my last 3 honorable mentions. Again, people, sorry about this. We have to, again, like, honestly, this is the most difficult list I had to do without putting these in my top 5. It is Gladiator. Specifically, Now We Are Free. This was composed by Hans Zimmer and performed by Lisa Gerald and conducted by Gavin Greenway. Again, like, I think this was the film where I first, like, really... Titanic before this, I felt some good emotions from the film, but I think this film, obviously the ending to this movie, Marcus Aurelius Maximus, it's a very sad ending, but I think it's a very like visually stunning movie as well, and I think the final composition of this movie really complements it quite well. Right. Moving on to my final 2, which was actually, interest a few people. So we are moving on to Star Trek, the 2009 movie. Not the older ones, not Nemesis, not The Next Generation. I'm talking about the 2009 movie, specifically the song Enterprising Young Men. It's basically the first track of the movie where we first get the visuals of the rebooted Enterprise. It was composed by Michael Giacchino, the entire soundtrack. I think this film, when it came out, the soundtrack was just sublime for this movie. But I think the first introduction of the Enterprise really did show how it was, it updated the Star Trek score, but also gave it its own flair, but also showed you the scale of this movie is going to have and how brilliant it was. Right. My final one, which if you listen to previous podcast people and how I love this movie, it's my favorite film of all time. It was my number 1 cult movie of all time. Fergus, can you remember my number 1 cult movie of all time?
Oh, it was the 80s Space, The Last Starfighter.
Damn right, good sir. Damn right. It was sung by Craig Safan. Just a fun little fact, he wanted to go bigger than Star Wars and utilize their Mahler-sized orchestra, resulting in unusual breadth of instruments, including quadruple woodwinds and 8 trumpets, trombones, and horns. That's just coming from the Wikipedia page, people. But again, this was the first sci-fi film I ever watched before Star Wars. I never heard the Star Wars theme before this, so I think this is why it's so synonymous with me and how this actually plays out. So this is the Last Starfighter main theme, not the theme song from the Broadway show. Do not listen to that, people. Again, like, okay, you may like it, just not for me. Just listen on the playlist that we provided, people. That's my final honorable mention. And hopefully I got through that quite quickly. Right. We are now going to move on to Fergus for his honorable mention.
I only have the one.
Thank God.
It is only an honorable mention because we have mentioned it before, again, in our cult movies episode. This would be the Rocky Horror Picture Show, largely written by Richard O'Brien and, for the most part, sung by Tim Curry himself. Richard O'Brien, Neil Campbell, Susan Sarandon, etc. It is a very classic soundtrack. People will regularly gather in cinemas to do sing-along performances. I know there is one just down the road from us.
We're going. We are going.
We have to get tickets to that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so all-time classic soundtrack. If you would probably recognize, I would say, 80% of the songs if they were just played on the radio, and probably be able to sing along.
I mean, Time Warp, like
Time Warp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably the safest song you could probably play in, like, when you were younger as well, to be honest.
Yeah. See, Sweet Transvestite.
Probably not as much.
Damn It, Janet. All of them. Science fiction, double feature. All of them.
I mean, I didn't know Meatloaf was in this movie until like I saw in university, and Hot
Yeah.
Patootie is such a song.
Yeah. Yeah. All round classic. Go watch the cult movies episode for us to reveal that this is a good film.
Yeah, most definitely indeed. James, how about yourself? Do you have any honourable mentions?
Only reason I put this in honourable mention is because I know you'll have this in your list, and that is Star Wars by John Williams, a massively classic soundtrack.
Interesting,
But
because
we'll,
James doesn't like Star Wars. So
well,
that's actually...
I over egg that just to because I over egg that just because it amuses me how sensitive people can be over someone else's opinion. I don't mind Star Wars. It's just not something I'm a massive fan of, and that's a personal preference, and I'm completely fine. And that shouldn't be, yeah. But in terms of music,
35 episodes, James, and I only find this out now after many years. I feel betrayed, sir. Betrayed.
the soundtrack is iconic and amazing. So yeah, I will mention that as an honourable.
So the main theme for me isn't in my list because I think
have you done it by specific tracks? Because I've done it by soundtracks in its entirety.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I've picked specific tracks which basically, because obviously, with some films you're not going to elicit some more emotions than others, and people are sort of subjective during the film itself. So that's why I've picked like specific tracks in the film. I think Star Wars in general, like I think that's a given. Like when you mention Star Wars, that is just a given at the end of the day. And I'm trying to be more specific, like the ones I've done. That's just what I've done now. So yeah.
There are certainly songs that stand out, but I mean, in terms of overall recognition of a soundtrack, I think, I guess some are better than others on my list. Put it that way. But
oh yeah, definitely agree. But yes, people, right? We are now going to get into not our top fives. I put them in sort of like a 5 list, basically. You go from 5 to 1, just so I talk about them because I think it's it's more the emotional level it went to for me. But basically, we're now going to get into our first mentions. My first mention is I'm actually quite so. It is a superhero film, obviously, because it's me. Can you guess what superhero film that might be?
Superman.
Wow, fucking nail on the head in one.
Oh right, yes, it has a really good soundtrack, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, nail on the head in goddamn one. That is some awesome stuff.
If it wasn't Superman, I've got another idea. What you don't have it in your list, and it's not in your honorable mentions. You might kick yourself. It's slightly different from soundtrack per se. It's more of a lot of licensed music, which I feel you would like, and that's Guardians of the Galaxy.
No, not my list at all.
I know it's not on your list, but I'm saying I'm kind of half surprised it's not.
Yeah, no, I was quite, it was actually like in contention, but I just had to like think of like films that were just above that. If I actually expanded my honorable mentions list, which I didn't want to do anymore because I spoke way too long.
Yeah, a lot.
So I'm actually talking about the film. Now, obviously, this is Superman, so the John Williams theme song, of course. Fucking brilliant. Amazing song. But I'm talking about the movie Superman Returns. So this is a film that came out in 2003, I want to say. So 2006, sorry. So this is like before, they did the reboots and it didn't come off as well. People said this wasn't enough action in this movie. I mean, this film has 3 tracks, which I love. It's the main theme, obviously. So it's like an updated version with more like drums in it and more power. And like it really elicits more emotions for me anyway. And also, I was at the right age when this film came out to really, really appreciate it. Love the original score. I just think this added to it. I didn't make it, amazingly better. Just really added to it more. The other 2 songs I want to talk about in this though is the songs "Rough Flight" and "Saving the World." So basically, Superman's first introduction into this film is him saving a plane that's basically like getting pulled into space by a shuttlecraft that's getting pulled out there. And the first sighting of him is on a plane radar coming into view. I thought this was an excellent introduction to this character. Reintroduction, sorry, because this is actually a continuation from the 1980 movie. Like it talks about how he like disappeared for a while. But again, like, with this track though, you see how he like, the loss of gravity in the scene, and then the gravity coming back in the scene, the plane hurtling towards the planet. I thought it was really awesome. I love the fact as well that basically when Superman tries to save the plane, he like tries to slow down the plane by holding the wing, but he snaps it off. He snaps the wing off because gravity is against him. I thought it was a very, very smart way to actually go about. It's like it's showing he isn't perfect even after all these years, and it literally ends in a baseball field, true American style, where he's slowing the plane down from the nose. It's buckling in, like the weight of the plane against him. I think this also goes against he's struggling in this movie to actually hold a plane up. We'll get into this in a second. And then he actually puts the plane down and everyone cheers, and that's the return of Superman. Superman returns, basically. Love that, love that. The other one I want to talk about again is Saving the World. So when I mentioned about the whole, basically, when he was saving the plane, there's another scene where basically, okay, have you both seen Superman Returns?
Not for some considerable time.
So basically, Lex Luthor wants to, he wants tons of terror, he wants tons of terrain, he wants to get all that land. So basically, he creates a kryptonite infused landmass that's basically, causing mass troubles across the world. Now, this isn't just like a landmass; this is a fucking massive continent, basically. Superman flies down to the bottom, cuts it from the bottom, and he's literally holding this by himself while kryptonite's going into him. He's struggling, he's sweating, he's trying to get us into space. I think it just shows like the raw power of this character. Also, it shows like his evolution in the movie. People said this didn't have a lot of action scenes in the movie, but to me, a film doesn't always need action scenes. It just needs good emotional context. And I think him sacrificing himself to actually get rid of this to save humanity was great, because later on, also you see how big this landmass is, compared to the actual island itself. This is on the horizon. It's fucking huge. And I just thought this was amazing. Again, love the scene. Love this film. I love this film for the soundtrack. Again, not taking away from John Williams at all. Love the man. He's actually given me another, as we mentioned with Star Wars, that's probably going to be high on my list. He's given us so many tracks, and he still says he wants to create a Bond theme, even after supposedly retiring from film. Amazing composer. But this was John Ottman who did the score for this. So yeah, that was my I wouldn't say my number 5, but my first mention. Fergus, how about yourself?
So I guess my first mention will be Grease, 1978. Another very much classic, beloved musical film where you would recognize basically any song that was played from its track list, I would imagine, and be able to sing along if you were into it. Written and performed by quite a wide variety of people, actually. I don't think there is one composer that is present throughout. There are some who are common, like Warren Casey, Jim Jacobs.
I mean, would you say "Grease is the Word" is the original song for the film?
No, Grease is the Word. Summer Nights is a classic one there. Sandy, Grease Lightning, I would say is the most recognizable classic song there. Ooh, Grease Lightning. No. Yeah, I say I've have I performed in this? I might have performed in this at some point. So has quite a lot of I said this is like one of the first major films that I watched as a kid. I've performed in it, as we've seen it in various live stage shows. So I mean, this has been fairly present in my life as a musical film entity for some time. And yeah, it is a classic that warrants rewatching, and everyone associated with it is super awesome.
I gotta say, I think the final song of the movie. What is the final song of the movie again? That just goes to show where my point. Oh yeah, you're all right. Okay, I knew that. I just couldn't remember the name. Oh, so this really goes against the point I was going to say. I think "You're the One That I Want" is actually more than "Grease Lightning," in my opinion.
Oh yeah. No, you're right. That is also another. Yeah. It's all of them are like up there. Like,
I mean, it was the first musical I ever saw as well. Like, I remember getting the old, cassette with that lovely art on the front of the cover and everything, with Travolta and Olivia Newton-John, John Travolta, Olivia Newton-John on the front, with the grease car at the bottom. I've never seen this live though. I think I'm definitely gonna have to do that eventually.
Yeah, no, it's always, it's one of these things that's always on somewhere. I think there have been a few adaptions as well.
But we don't talk about Grease 2.
We don't talk about Grease 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Was there,
How
I
many
think it
were
was.
there?
I think there was only 2. I think there was only 2. But is this going to be one of these films that's going to get rebooted? Do you think?
God, I hope not. The original cast and songs, they like tried to redo it with I don't like Danny DeVito and
Danny
don't know,
DeVito.
was
Wow. Okay, that's
culture.
something.
It wouldn't work basically. Trying to cast anyone else as John Travolta's character just wouldn't. It wouldn't be the same. There's quite a lot of just unique energy. Everyone was having fun, and it was good, and it was, the
Well, so it
energy
is a
just wouldn't be
50s
there.
film. It is
It
a
is
50s film.
a 50s film made in the late 70s.
Yeah. Around the same time as Star Wars, I believe.
So there was maybe 30 years between 1950s and when this film was made. The 70s was
A long time ago.
40 years ago. So
More than
we are
that.
50 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're at a point where we're watching this film further in time ahead than it was made
Check.
from its original subject matter.
80 years.
Yeah.
Jesus
It doesn't.
Christ.
That does feel
Oh,
weird,
70
doesn't it?
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, 70 years. I can do maths, people. Just a bit tired today. It's 70 years. But yeah, no. Yeah. Again, this is the first musical I saw. I think. I think this is just I think they are gonna do a remake eventually. As long as you keep us the 50s, I think. As long as you keep that visual flair, I think it can work.
It's the cast, though. Again, like Olivia Newton-John, just absolute classic artist. John Travolta, just those moves. Like,
Gotta get his hips. Gotta get those hips in again. Yeah.
I mean, he well deserves his place amongst film star royalty with this film alone.
Was this before or after Saturday Night Fever? I think it was before, right? Because because obviously he's famous
I would
like
say
for Grease.
before,
Yeah.
because this was like a student type deal. Like, this wasn't a big film when it was originally made.
And now look at it.
I know, right?
It's insane. It's like a Rocky Horror Picture Level style thing.
Yeah, it's the same deal.
Probably more than Rocky Horror. It was made for more, but obviously the names in the everything. But yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you have not seen Grease, please, dear God, go and see Grease.
Like, stop the podcast, people. This is the one time I'll say it. Stop the podcast to go watch Grease.
Yeah,
and then come back and press play and continue.
Yeah,
I don't know if we'll get double play for that, but we will sacrifice the download and the viewership to actually go watch Grease. So yeah, right. We're now moving along to Mr. James.
Yeah, I mean, all this talk about the past and especially the 50s. I mean, come on, guys. It's time to get back to the future.
Oh, actually, James, Back to the Future isn't in my list, but the composer will be mentioned in a couple of films.
Yeah, no, cool, awesome. Yeah, so another film which I believe has an iconic soundtrack. You just hear that soundtrack and hear the theme, and you instantly know. So I'm just watching the clip now. So yeah, it's very evocative of that kind of like 80s kind of action and like family action.
Lots of dun-dun-dunning,
Also, the fact it was a trilogy plan from the get-go.
Yeah, it was just really good.
Also, now a West End musical going to Broadway musical.
I've not seen it yet.
I do actually want to see it. I've heard it's really good. I've heard when they do the actually 88 miles per hour scene, they have the DeLorean on a platform. They have like special visual effects implemented, so it does look like the car is actually driving at speed.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And obviously I've performed Johnny Be Good. Love that scene in the movie.
Classic.
Exactly. And but yeah, Alan Silvestri doing the theme for this. Again, love this movie. Love the fact that Christopher, what's his name? Apologies. Christopher Lloyd. I was about to say Christopher Lee. I was like, no. It began with an L. Christopher Lloyd is in this. I believe he's in a comedy show, Taxi, before this came out, actually, and he went on to do this film. But yeah, again, I love this film. It blew my mind when I was younger. And to think, like, I honestly feel like a DeLorean could actually go in that speed at real life. Turns out DeLoreans could not even hit like 70 back then. But futuristic car, love the film. Also, obviously, it's Michael J. Fox's, I want to say his like it is his major film break, but he was in like TV shows, and also I believe he was in one film before this, or like one film after this, like a spooky horror type thing. But he was in a TV show, and that's why he wasn't originally cast in the film. And then he was actually the second choice actor. Go watch the Netflix documentary series, The Movies That Made Us, and watch the Back to the Future episode. Highly recommend that, people. But yeah, any more to say about the soundtrack, James?
No, just you've not seen Back to the Future, watch it.
Again, people, maybe just look at the hashtags for this show and just go watch all these films before we actually talk about it, before you actually listen to the show. Yeah, again, like this has such a powerful score, and I think also this composer, because obviously this composer also did Forrest Gump and the film I'm going to talk about a bit later on. If you know your films, people, you know exactly what I'm going to be talking about. We won't spoil it just yet. Right, moving on to my next film. I think actually now James is probably going to be talking about this a bit later, so I think, I don't know, maybe we should just combine it now. But it's if I just say the track name, James, and I'm going on about Molossus.
I know you're talking about Batman Begins, but I do not have Batman Begins on my list.
I mean, to be fair though, this track Molossus, which I call the iconic Batman theme, like the Dark Knight theme song, in my opinion, is just the trilogy for this. Obviously, you know, it's a Hans Zimmer. And as soon as James said to me, like, you know, my tracks are going to be composed by a lot of one person, I was like, oh, well, I know exactly who's on there. And obviously it's Batman, so, and it's going to be there. But James, I'm actually going to hand it over to you first, so you can actually talk about it, and I'll come in at the end.
Well, do you want me to talk about what my selection is, which is close to this?
Yeah, sure, go ahead, yeah.
Which is Hans Zimmer. It's not Batman Begins, but it's for Dark Knight. Because in my mind, what Hans Zimmer did that specifically with soundtrack to the Dark Knight is pretty kind of amazing, especially the Joker theme. The way it's very experimental in nature, how it's like this one. I can't remember exactly how I did it. I don't know if you remember, but it was a special way he did it. It's like a razor blade being played on a string or something.
Yeah, it's like this one tone. It's like it's a waving tone.
Yes, yeah, and that's just that kind of like experimentalism, just to get that kind of sense of foreboding. I felt was utterly amazing. So I'll make my fourth selection for Dark Knight. And but yeah, of course, the Batman Begins soundtrack is also amazing. I've listened to both those soundtracks so many times. Also, Dark Knight Rises, that's not on my list, but I'll shout that one out as well. But for me, I was going to choose between those three soundtracks. For me, it is The Dark Knight. And again, the Joker theme, the uniqueness of that theme is genius.
So, I do like to always mention this. Obviously, The Dark Knight Rises is my least favorite out the Nolan films, because I think there was a lot of stuff that could have been improved in that movie, especially the people. Bane's voice in that film was terrible, in my opinion. I love the fact that the Harley Quinn TV show just rips the fuck into that. I think it's hilarious. But yeah, Molossus. I also love the fact that it's so interesting, a bit weird they did this. But Hans Zimmer composed the soundtrack list for Batman Begins that actually spells out Batman for 6 of the tracks, which I thought was hilarious. And obviously, Molossus is the man part of the actual track list. I think, I don't know, it's like dun 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 dun. I just like, I think it brings the urgency of the character and the pace, and also like, you know, the high tone, like the actual drums coming in, the horns. It shows the fortitude, but also he just doesn't stop. Like, I think like it builds up as well, and like the orchestral thing behind it, because obviously they usually save this track for the bigger parts of the film, which I think is the best part to do, like the truck scene where he first appears there, and also the final fight in The Dark Knight where they're on the skyscraper, which I thought was amazing to see, and obviously at the end of The Dark Knight Rises. But yeah, I just love this. I love this theme song. I thought, you know, Hans Zimmer we have to give credit here. It's Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard. So I have to definitely have to give credit here. So obviously, Nolan originally invited Zimmer to compose the music, and Zimmer asked Nolan if he could invite Howard to compose as well, as they had planned a collaboration. But the two composers collaborated on separate themes for the split personality of Bruce Wayne and his alter ego Batman. Zimmer and Howard began composing in Los Angeles and moved to London, where they stayed for 12 weeks to compose most of the writing. Zimmer and Howard sought inspiration for shaping the score by visiting the Batman Begins sets. So again, like I definitely had to make sure to mention James Newton Howard here, because Hans Zimmer, I feel like when you think of the Batman theme score, a lot of people do tend to forget about him, but it's more James Newton Howard definitely has as well. And I love how there was split personality. Again, as mentioned by the Wikipedia page, there's a split personality of Bruce Wayne in this film, in the first film specifically as well. Like, who are you? What are you? And then it's that, the Molossus theme really kicks into gear again when he finally, reveals to Rachel who he is, and then it kicks into high gear, and that's when shit's about to go down. And that's I just wanted to, I definitely wanted to bring in James to the collaboration on this, and we're definitely going to get into the next film as well.
An illegal spy agency discovers the theft of a prototype weapon. Derek, codename Confused Llama, and his handler, Frank, codename Majestic Vole, investigate the theft. A naive man with fanciful notions, Derek sets out on his inept journey to reclaim the weapon from villainous hands, unaware of the hidden tale following him. Enter the world of Confused Llama, A Spy's Tale, a short comedic spy thriller available on Amazon in paperback or Kindle.
Which I'll talk about in a moment for Alan Silvestri. But first, we're going to roll over to Fergus. Fergus, what is your next film, man?
Mine is number 2, or my next choice is another musical, The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is 1993. This is Tim Burton's masterpiece animated musical.
What's this? What's this soundtrack about, Fergus? What's this soundtrack about?
So this is primarily done by Danny Elfman, who does a lot of Tim Burton's soundtracks. But The Nightmare Before Christmas, a skeleton from the world of Halloween mistakenly ends up in the world of Christmas, and a comedic crossover ensues. Basically, they kidnap Santa Claus and lots of ghosts and zombie kids.
It's a fucked up film.
It is. It's good. It's really good. But a lot of stuff happens. Like, it's only a PG.
Yeah.
But still, yeah. I mean,
And Danny Elfman is just, it's Danny Elfman. Like, I mean, a quick shout out to, he did the one of the most famous Batman themes out there as well. Be a massive shout out to Danny Elfman. But again, like, did you catch what I was doing about, like, asking what it was there, Fergus?
What's this?
There's magic in the air.
Again, one of the most classic songs, Oogie Boogie song. This is Halloween. What else have we got? Again, like, if you're into this sort of stuff, I think you would, again, recognize and be able to try and sing along to at least some of these songs. They're very catchy. They are a very integral part of the film itself. Like, if you remade it without the songs, it just wouldn't work or be the same film. And again, like, if you're into Tim Burton stuff, it is a classic film that does warrant definitely a must watch. There was also involvement with who was it? I know Danny Elfman has his own band that was involved with this as well.
Yes, and also, again, people, which I highly recommend, go watch the episode, the Halloween episode, themed episode for this, which for the movies that made us, which is on Netflix right now, because they actually do have a specific segment for Danny Elfman in regards to how he actually composed the music for this film.
Yeah, absolutely. I've not seen it myself. I will have to check it out.
Brilliant, to be honest.
A lot of involvement by a lot of talented people, but music and lyrics, Danny Elfman throughout, and top job, definitely.
Also, I've just learned something. I've realized something. Because obviously it's Tim Burton, so Danny Elfman is most likely, trailing behind, obviously. But obviously you have the Wednesday Netflix series coming out soon.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, and obviously Danny Elfman is the composer, the theme music composer, and obviously composer Chris Bacon as well. But it's a little tangent, people, but I didn't know that it was created. I thought this was Tim Burton created this. Tim Burton directed this show. The creators are Alfred Gore and Miles Miller. Now, if you're in geek culture and you were in the early 2000s, these two guys created Smallville.
Oh, right, okay.
So the Smallville creators have created Wednesday show directed by Tim Burton. I'm like, that is a show. That is a weird composition, so which I'm really looking forward to. They also did Into the Badlands, which I highly recommend. It's great on Amazon. I believe it's still on there, but yeah. No, but definitely wanted to bring that little thing in there. So, right, James is actually just pop away. So what we're going to do is, people, to save time, is we're actually going to go to Fergus's next choice now. We're actually going to flip
next
about now.
choice.
Yeah, let's go to
Okay.
Fergus for his next choice.
So this is a bit of a gear change. We are leaving the musicals behind, and we are heading into the wonderful world of anime and anime soundtracks.
Because, of course, there wouldn't be an episode without tentacles and hentai and anime for Fergus.
Wow, you're going to regret that comment.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
This film is Spirited Away, the U-rated
Oh, no. Why did I do that?
2001 really wholesome movie.
Oh, I'm going to
Studio
hell.
Ghibli. There are no tentacles here.
Okay, answer me this, though. Are there tentacles later coming up? Or is there, is it heavier anime later on?
Well, there might be a tentacle, but not really.
I mean, okay, to be fair, in my defense, The Little Mermaid has tentacles into a point. But,
True.
oh my god, I can't believe it's Spirited Away. Why, fuck's sake, people.
This is,
okay.
It's composed by Joe Hisaishi. So this is your fairly classic anime piano, emotional, not really feel good. If you've seen the movie at all, it is quite tense. There's quite a lot of loss themes and will I get back to my world sort of vibes. So there's a lot of sorrow and tenseness, and it comes across brilliantly in the music. The film is a classic in the animated anime world. I think the music does a lot to push that a lot forwards because it helps you ground yourself in the world. I say a lot of the sound design helps, but the music is again a big grounder in this new world that a lot of the people watching the film would have not experienced before. So there's lots of tree spirit themes and this sort of stuff. This sort of stuff is coming through with largely piano music, which is hard to do, I think. This is not one where you might recognize. There's not standout classic theme songs particularly, but I think if you listen to it as a whole, you would recognize it and know it for what it was in terms of the film it's from. But it's
you're gonna crucify me, Fergus. I've only ever seen one Studio Ghibli movie.
Oh, which one?
Howl's Moving Castle. That's the only.
It's a good one.
I like Fergus is yeah, cool. I'm gonna cut you, but that's good and everything. Watch this.
Definitely watch Spirited Away. I mean, they're pretty close. I would say Spirited Away is better than Howl's Moving Castle.
There is an anime which I've heard I should have watched because I don't like my depressing anime, heavy depressing. It's about the one where it's the girl in the Japanese World War II.
The Grave of the Fireflies.
That's it. Yeah, I've been told I should avoid that one.
Yeah, even I haven't made it to the end of Grave of the Fireflies. It's too much, man.
Yeah,
it
no.
Really is.
James is returning people, but basically, James, you probably didn't hear. Basically, I knew we were going over to anime, so I decided to make the comment that we're moving into the land of hentai and tentacles, and then Fergus went to the most wholesome anime ever, and I was like, I feel shit.
It really is. Yeah, definitely watch it if you've not seen it. The music does a lot for it. I think I even saw this as a live stage show at one point.
Oh wow, that's something.
Which again used largely the same music. So it's quite hard to pick out one song, but it is the same composer throughout, and it does feel like sort of
Again, what we'll do is, people, after the show, we'll get Fergus to select a few tracks from Spirited Away, and we'll put maybe 2-3 tracks from the actual film itself. But definitely go check out the film. Right, we're now going to go to James to find out his next favorite film soundtrack. So James, hand over to you, man.
Okay, cool. So, we determined that we like that Hans Zimmer was somebody who I've had multiple entries of.
Yeah.
Do I have a guess to what my next entry is?
Hans Zimmer.
Gladiator?
Oh, well, no. Is it Inception?
It is Inception.
Yeah.
100%. Again, another amazing soundtrack, which is, very experimental film by Nolan, going into different, incepting somebody's dreams, essentially. And so you go into these different... It's a very trippy film, but it's a very, very good film. And the tenseness and the trippiness of the whole concept is really evoked with Hans Zimmer's soundtrack.
Yeah, this is definitely a layered film, and I also I believe like the music does get more complicated as the film goes on as well. I believe like I think that's something that does happen. That's just my interpretation. I've only seen Inception a couple of times, but because it still confuses me to this day. I still haven't seen the other one, Interstellar, and people have a go at me for that. But I've still not seen Interstellar to this day. But yeah, Inception for me was, I think, the peak of like Nolan. I could handle like the mind fuckery essentially.
Okay.
And it's I'm not even going to try Tenet. But yeah, no, Inception is an amazing movie, great score. Time is one of the main tracks, I believe. Is the slow down scene. Yeah, no, that's awesome. But yeah, Inception, probably add that to the track list.
You get kind of like the ticking of kind of like the clock, kind of like. So I'm just listening to the soundtrack myself at the moment and reminding myself. But you do get a very kind of like intense, because one thing Nolan likes to do in his films is play around with the concept of time a lot, and Inception's no different. But there's right at the end of the film, try not to spoil it too much, but time does play into it in terms of they need to do something in a certain amount of time, and the soundtrack very much builds and builds and builds, and it feels almost like a ticking kind of like clock kind of like element to some of that soundtrack.
Yeah, no, again, like love this film. I've only seen it a couple of times myself. It's I think it's one of those films that I don't think I can watch too often, but when I do watch it, when I do see it, it's visually stunning and looks so good. But yeah, right, moving on to my next film. Right, so I mentioned Mr. Alan Silvestri before. So can you guess what my next film is, James, since it's Alan Silvestri?
Yes, because I've seen your.
Damn it! Why did I do that? Damn it! Why did I do that? Yes, people, I am talking about the one and only Alan Silvestri, Avengers Endgame. I can't believe I forgot the tagline there. And I'm specifically talking about the track Portals. This film, I watched a review for this film, basically saying this scene was the ultimate comic book panels come to life. I was like, you could not picture what was going to happen in this scene. And I was like, okay, that's fine and everything, you know, Captain America getting his ass kicked and, you know, up against all the other enemies. But when, obviously, it didn't get spoiled for what actually happens for this part, but obviously, you know, it comes back to the running joke of obviously Captain America listening to Sam Wilson on your left, which I thought was an amazing callback to the fact that he disappeared in the last movie. And it's his reintroduction. His first introduction in the film was on your left. And then later on, it's a case of this is his reintroduction in this film. And then we get the entrance in the portal from the amazing Emmy Award-winning, posthumously Emmy Award-winning now, Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther, his return as well. And then it just builds up from there, where all the heroes return. You know, Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man makes his triumphant return. Like, you know, has his big shot. You know, basically the Wizards are bringing every army in the MCU to fight Thanos. And, you know, Captain America's like, oh, fuck, I don't have to do this by myself now. But, you know, it's the theme from the first film, building, and it's like the militaristic chant, and, you know, the hope and the you know, Pepper Potts coming into the scene and everything, you know. And, you know, I love him when there's a little joke about, like, you know, Wong, you know, is asked to bring in more people in. Also, Ant-Man, you know, coming out of the ground and everything. And everyone just coming into the scene. And then we get that classic line of Avengers, pause, and then assemble. That is just like pure cinema to me. And that was the moment where me and my friend, it was an uncontrolled moment where we somehow slowly raised our fists to each other and did the lightest of fist bumps just as the assemble happened, because we'd been waiting 10 years for Captain America to say Avengers Assemble. And he was going to do it in the last film, but they cut it, and I thought it was a running joke. But the charge up between these people, it's so... I didn't put this as my number one because I think there are a couple of films which have a lot more nostalgic factor for me. But I had to put it in my top three because, again, my housemate knows this. I've played this scene so many times, you know, Ant-Man punching the thing and everything, everyone fighting. I've played this track so many times in my mind. I just viewed it so many times. It's just... I don't know how we're going to get, like, I want to know how Marvel's going to play out in the next 10 years, because if the whole multiverse thing, they are going to have to take it to 10 steps further in the next, you know, the final stage, because we got to the stage and event in the Marvel universe where this was just the culmination for a lot of people, you know, in this podcast themselves. they stopped watching Marvel films really because Endgame was their Endgame, and I thought this scene really culminates that for me. So that was my, you guys got any thoughts on that?
No.
No, but I mean, I agree with you. Both the Infinity War and Avengers Endgame films were fantastic, and the film score definitely contributes to a lot of the emotional moments in those films.
Also, I've seen a clip of Seth MacFarlane actually got Alan Silvestri at his Christmas party to actually play the Portals theme song for the entire of the celebrities there for the Christmas party. And I'm like, oh, that is and like Seth MacFarlane's just got like the cheesiest grin on his face because he's a big geek himself. So, again, amazing score. I don't know how, and I love the fact that we're not getting another Avengers film to the end of Phase 6. And I think that's needed as well because we are going to need that Avengers theme song to play properly again when everyone culminates together again. So that's I wouldn't say my number 3, but my next on my list. We're going to round it back to Fergus now.
Back to me. So sticking with the more anime movie soundtracks, a absolute classic. The 1995 Ghost in the Shell movie. I know there have been quite a few iterations of this since 1995, including a live action with Scarlett Johansson, which does still have the same main theme because it is such a classic. The chant song, you'll know it if you hear it. It'll probably be in the playlist below. So there's various remixes and reiterations of it, but this was all composed and arranged by Kenji Kawai. He is quite a prolific composer in the sort of anime and even live action world. Like he's done IP Man, all of the Ghost in the Shells. He did the.
Did you say IP Man?
IP Man, yes. He is a martial artist who owns large quantities of his own IP and rents them out to Netflix series. I've not seen it.
It's just Ip Man, yeah. It's just Ip Man.
He's not a copyright lawyer. He did quite a lot of the soundtracks for the Higurashi series, which we have mentioned in previous episodes. But the Ghost in the Shell soundtrack is again lends itself quite just extremely well to like a high tech cyberpunk future sort of city. So it's kind of there's a lot of philosophy behind it. So it's quite high tech, not really electronic, but using traditional instruments typically, but in a sort of thoughtful way. It's a very interesting production all round, really. I said the chant, you'll know it, and it is. I think it's pretty unique in terms of tracks, especially film tracks. It really makes it stand out. I think it is the opening song. It's been a while since I've seen the 1995 version. It's used in different ways in the other versions of the film, but I do very much recommend watching the original Ghost in the Shell animated movie because it is far better than any of the other iterations. I think
I've never seen Ghost in the Shell. I know I even refused to watch the live action version because obviously I'd want to watch the original version first. I mean, I've seen clips online of the the actual film itself, and I definitely, when I see the visuals for Ghost in the Shell, I know exactly what it is, to be honest.
I've seen the original anime film, but it's been a long time since I saw that, so I don't remember it very well. I remember it being very good, though. Yeah,
no, definitely agree. Definitely agree. James, we're going to go to your next one now, man.
Yeah, cool. So you all know I love my Batman, and the Batman soundtracks are fantastic. So it is absolutely obvious that my next choice is going to be Batman 1966 movie.
Oh wow! Okay, I did not see that.
No. It's not. It is not the 96. It's not the 66 movie. I'm just joking about. It is actually the 89 movie and the Danny Elfman score for that. One of the most iconic Batman soundtracks of all time. Very heavily associated also with the animated TV show, the Batman animated show, which came out shortly after the 89 film, which came out. So the animated show came out in the early 90s, I believe. Reused the Danny Elfman score, and that theme is basically been synonymous with Batman for a very long time.
Yeah, no. Again, like obviously, I've watched a few podcasts where they talk about the fact that back in the day, all they literally had to go off for the '89 Batman movie was the Batman symbol. That's all they had to go off. And then when they went into the film, and yeah, again, butchered that, people, but it'll be in the playlist. Love the film. Again, I also love I love the scene in the movie where the theme's playing, where the bat actually goes into the moon. Like, actually, I thought that was so visually stunning. I'm not a huge fan of Batman Returns, to be honest, because I think it went too, as I put it, too Burton. It went too Tim Burton. I think like, this is what really pisses me off about the whole Batgirl, cancellation. We're still getting the Flash. That's cool and everything. For people, I'm still apprehensive about that, really apprehensive. But Keaton will be in it. But I'm still pissed off that Keaton is not going to be in the Batgirl movie as well. And, Keaton is a lot of people's Batman, to be honest. That's a lot. A lot of people have their Bale or their Batfleck, but Keaton is a lot of people's Batman. And again, amazing score, James. And also, as you said, went on to stupidly heavily influence the animated series, which is a stunning soundtrack unto itself. Yeah, no, right. Moving on to my next one. So definitely different than those ones. Can you guess what my next one is? It's from a fantasy series.
Yes, because I'm watching your stream, so I'm going to give
Damn it. Okay. Well, people, the magic is gone. We are talking about the Lord of the Rings film trilogy, specifically The Return of the King. And I don't watch anything else, the extended version, people. That's the only way I go about. I totally forgot it's like 12 and a half hours there in total for 3 films, which still gets me to this day. But yeah, we're talking about 3 tracks in particular: The Steward of Gondor, The Ride of the Rohirrim, and 4 tracks actually. So The Steward of Gondor, The Ride of the Rohirrim, The End of All Things, and Into the West. So with The Return of the King, it was scored by Howard Shore, who's actually come back to do the opening theme song for The Rings of Power, which I think is absolutely great to do. But again, we're actually going in order here for this as well, because in this movie, The Steward of Gondor, when Faramir rides out to face off against Osgiliath, when Denethor sends him out, and Denethor's like, "You, Hobbit, sing, you are musical people, sing me a song." And it's like, oh, how the fuck is Pippin supposed to do a musical song when it is someone he knows is about to ride to his death? But then they actually, they do the song. He starts singing, "Oh, miss behind the word I had," and it's literally just him singing initially, and then the orchestral score comes in towards the end as they ride towards their doom. Essentially, all the orcs are watching. Faramir is like shouting charge. They're all going forward. Denethor is just like gorging down on food. And it's the really sad end of like Denethor thinking, oh, he's going to get his honor back or whatever. He's just, fuck my son. I'm just going to let him die. It's a really, really emotional scene to me. So I love this scene and I love the track from this film. The next one, again, I was talking about is The Ride of the Rohirrim. Minas Tirith is pretty much in shambles by this point, people. They are losing. The trolls are in. Gandalf's staff is pretty much destroyed. But don't worry, Theoden and the Rohirrim have turned up to aid Gondor. And like right now, to Rohirrim on to glory. Like stupidly amount. Like we are talking like as the music pans out, as he's giving this amazing speech, hitting all the spears, and then his niece is there, Eowyn, and then it just pans out, the chants going on, and then we just see the huge score of cavalry which are in the scene, and the orcs are just like, oh, we're fucked. Like they're like, oh, we'll put the spears to the front. We'll put the spears to the front as they're charging and everything. It's like, cool, we'll do it, but no, it doesn't work. They just ride through them and kill them all. And I think it's just an epic scene, to be honest. It's just like shows the power of the two nations together. Quickly moving along to the other tracks, people. Again, apologies. I love the score for this film. We are talking about The End of All Things. So basically, at the end of all things, it's the end scene in the movie where Aragorn is fighting he's trying to distract Sauron from Frodo going to Mount Doom. Fun fact for the original scene for this film, which was actually a deleted scene, Aragorn was supposed to fight Sauron again. They actually shot Sauron fighting Aragorn, which I thought would actually been really good for this film. But in the extended cut, they had the mouth of Sauron. But again, like, it's like for Frodo, and then the music kicks in, and everyone, like the last of men and elves and dwarf, and are charging towards the enemy, and it's just beautiful music. And then you just end the film with the narrative ending with Frodo going to, I believe it is Valinor, into the west, journeying with the elves because he's a ring bearer. Ironically, Sam would be allowed to go as well because he is a ring bearer as well, because he did carry the ring for a small part. But it's Annie Lennox doing the Into the West song. It's such a peaceful song because, like, the war's over, everyone's at peace, and it's just like, journey into the West. It's your time now. It's your time to rest. Go into the West. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. Those will be the 4 songs on my list, and we'll get to my number 1 in a second. People, obviously these guys know because I realize I keep forgetting to put my wiki document back up. But yeah, Fergus, we're gonna head over to your number 1 now, man.
At number 1, yes, it is Lord of the. No, it's not Lord of the Rings. I would have put Lord of the Rings if I didn't suspect someone else would have done that. I do agree with all of those selections there. But for me, at number 1 is the 1988 Akira soundtrack.
I was right. There is some awful, like, tentacle type things in here.
This sort of a tentacle, kind of, maybe. Watch the film, you'll see what we mean. Very interesting soundtrack, as frankly any movie goes. Interesting artist as well, actually. Yamiyash. Yes, this is our name.
I'm like, no. I probably, actually, to be fair, I probably will if I saw the artwork. I think it's one of those things where you don't know the artist, you know the art.
Yeah. So, Yami Shirogurumi. Yes, sorry about that. It's created by a Japanese musical collective rather than an individual artist. This collective, Tsumuro Ohashi is the leader of it, or he was the creator of it. It consists of hundreds of people from walks of life, including journalists, doctors, engineers, students, and businessmen, who kind of get together and create experimental music from a wide range of sources, including Indonesian gamelan music, and traditional Japanese stuff, and progressive rock and this sort of stuff. It's resulted in an incredibly interesting and very effective soundtrack for the Akira movie. There are some really good tracks. I would recommend watching the movie before scoping out the tracks, because like it'll have like extra impact if you watch while listening to, because some quite dramatic things happen in Akira. Like, I think Tokyo gets blown up at least twice. Spoiler, but you must have seen it already because it's 1988 film. So the collective here has done some other very interesting experimental albums. Not that many other films, I don't think. So it makes the Akira soundtrack pretty unique as films go. If you're into kind of sci-fi, and the Akira world is an interesting world in itself. Like people coming back from apocalypse, rebuilds this massive city, but there's all kinds of like culty religious groups and gangs and things are sort of not perfect. It's not quite cyberpunky, but that kind of vision of the future sort of deal. But to have this music that is ancient Indonesian gamelan with like Shinto origins type music with all this futureness, just really, it's really quite exceptional. Definitely go watch it if you haven't seen it already. Sorry about the pronunciations. I got that. Yeah. There will be tracks in the playlist for your adaptation. But I'm sure you can watch Akira on Netflix at the moment, actually. So I would recommend that.
I definitely think I will, because I've seen Akira, but I don't think I've finished Akira. Like I believe I saw it back in college, and it was one of those films where they had it on. I was like, oh, okay, I'll get this going. And I think I came like a quarter of the way through, halfway through. I was like, what the fuck am I watching?
It's
Like,
quite a dense film. Like, my personal opinion is it would have been better as a 12-part animated series rather than a film. Like, if you've seen the manga, you would see why. Like, it's hefty. They've tried to squeeze a lot of quite high concept stuff into hour
Let me
and a
ask you
half,
this
2
then.
hours. Yeah.
Let me ask you this then. So Taika Waititi is the person still supposed to be doing the movie adaptation of this. How do you feel about that?
Very, very, very tough job to take on. I assume it's live action adaptation that he's doing.
You're
Like,
finally get that live action slide though with the bike.
yes, like Akira as an animated series is visually exceptional as well. So it's an extremely tough challenge to take on. I'm giving the benefit of the doubt, but
I mean, there's rumors he might not be coming back after the middle reception of Thor: Love and Thunder. To be honest,
I am shocked at that personally, because I really liked Thor: Love and Thunder, and he did a good job with what was quite a complicated situation.
yeah,
Really.
no, I get that. We'll probably have a discussion in one of our news topics or topics down the line, people. But
Mm.
we're now going to hand it to James now for his number one.
Yeah, so we've already done 2 Batman films, so I'm definitely not going to do another one. So my next film, there is a lot of recency bias in my last selection, but it's a soundtrack that I have on repeat. And okay, I lied. I'm doing another Batman film. It's for Batman. It's Michael Giacchino's soundtrack for The Batman. Again,
Batman.
it's a soundtrack which it really evokes the. So I'm trying to listen to soundtrack at the same time. It really evokes the sense of Batman again, but maybe in a more grittier way than Danny Elfman's track does. Kind of like similar to how movies have evolved from Danny Elfman's more superheroic, bombastic kind of soundtrack to Michael Giacchino's maybe still has a bombast, but it's a bit more of a darker, grittier kind of foreboding tone.
I mean, like I'll be honest with you, like this film only feels like it has maybe 4 or 5 tracks in the entire film. Like when I heard the score at most, and I will say the intro to this film when Batman Bruce Wayne is first talking, and it does feel like comic book panels where he's talk about the city and how he's been doing it for 2 years, and dum 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 dum. It's that build up, and then when he first appears out the shadows, like you're all fucked now. And again, like. Yeah. It's really interesting. So it's like I think I give it a Jaws comparison, because Jaws is a very very basic theme for what it is, and I feel the Batman it has the similar feel of how like it's drawing the power. It's powerful, but it's very simple in its like its execution. It's good to point to like the whole classic super themes, because I think like Hans Zimmer again, Man of Steel. I never put him on my list at all, but. Yeah. It's very, very difficult to do a superhero theme after Superman. But I think, Man of Steel did a great job with that. It's not as iconic, but if you hear it, you definitely know what it is from the drums and the trumpets and everything. I think the Batman, like, dependent on how we do with the next film, which is going to happen, which I'm hoping they'll maybe evolve the track. So basically, obviously, in this film, the Batman, he's learning who he is, basically. I'm wondering if it'll be a case of the track evolves as the films go on. Like it's very simplistic and like structured now, but it becomes more like orchestral as it goes by, because it is Giacchino. So as it becomes more, more layers essentially.
Yeah, that's fair. But again, I think if you listen to a soundtrack, you've got a few different kind of like aspects to a full soundtrack. You've got the Batman theme, which he says it's very simple but very effective, and you could listen to that anywhere, and if you know the character of Batman, if you didn't know that soundtrack, you still know that's a Batman song. That's to do with Batman. But then you've also got the Catwoman soundtrack, which is again quite similar to Dark Knight Rises, because that's got its own soundtrack associated with that character. But and then of course you've got the one which is more associated with the Riddler. you really do have a full, just as a soundtrack, you have a full sense of all the kind of like aspects and beats in the story, and it all meshes together really well.
Yeah, we'll definitely put a few tracks in those people. Right. My number one, my numero uno, these guys will know what it is. So it is Star Wars. So let's get the Star Wars main theme out of the way. That's a given at the end of the day. We are talking about Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. So a lot of people do not like the prequels. They just don't. I disagree. I think Attack of the Clones is the weakest out of the prequels. Then it goes Phantom Menace, but Revenge of the Sith for me, I think a lot of people say, oh, it's just because of the volcano fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan. Ironically, that's one of the tracks on here, Anakin versus Obi-Wan, which I thought was a stunning visual achievement in like its fight choreography and everything. But the music accompanying it really worked well. The other track I'm talking about, which is, again, the second part of this fight, is called Battle of the Heroes. It's like the culmination, like, Destiny fighting these two friends, brothers, heroes of the war they've been. One's turned to the dark side. And also, it was really interesting to see two blue lightsabers fighting each other in a film, which never happened before up until this point. It's always been red and blue or green and blue, green and whatever, the color combinations. And again, I remember just going into this film and loving the soundtrack, even just seeing in the trailers. But I think the intro to this movie, how it does descend to Star Wars crawl, but then it goes into the opening battle, and it's like bum, 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 and then the camera pans down to this massive, like stupidly huge space battle, like stupidly big. And so the trumpets of the war and effort and everything, and it just goes in as the music goes on. I think it has a great score. The other tracks, so the tracks again mentioned before, Anakin versus Obi-Wan and Battle of the Heroes. The final track I want to mention is Anakin's Dark Deeds, where basically, the Imperial theme song has started to creep in, and it's him basically just going in and killing all the Jedi, including the children in the Jedi Temple Chamber, which is a meme they have to this day. I've actually seen an image of Hayden Christensen and the boy he actually slaughters in that scene all grown up, which I think is quite hilarious, to be honest. And he has a running joke with that. But yeah, again, I think also, like, when I think of the prequel trilogy, I do think of the music for this film, and it would always stay with me, to be honest. And I think because the lead up to this film, I was so hyped for it. Even more than Lord of the Rings, this is why it was really difficult for me for Endgame and Lord of the Rings of Star Wars. I think Revenge of the Sith for me is way up there. Rogue One, I think, is probably one of the best Star Wars films, but I think this has the better soundtrack, in my opinion. Because obviously, a film doesn't have to be great or perfect to have a great score. And that's actually probably a topic we're going to cover later on in another episode, people. Soundtracks that saved a film, or films that had a bad soundtrack. We'll probably do a couple of episodes on that. But again, that's my number one. Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, Battle of the Heroes, Anakin vs. Obi-Wan, and Anakin's Dark Deeds. Well, people, and breathe. That is it, people. We have done all of our films. Hopefully you've enjoyed the episode. Hopefully you've listened along to some of the tracks. Obviously, with copyright, this can be an issue sometimes. So we are definitely going to be doing, though, our favorite game soundtracks later on as well. TV soundtracks, maybe not as much, because I think TV, I think it's getting to that point now where, you have your Breaking Bad, your Game of Thrones and everything. But I think that's coming up more. But I think when it comes to, game soundtracks, and also we're actually looking to get a few other guest hosts on, and we're linking that down the line as well. But yes, people, that is it. That is the end of the episode. I'd like to thank Fergus and James for joining me today and also presenting me those lovely film soundtracks. I'm definitely going to be adding those to the Spotify, Google playlists or YouTube playlist, which I put in the description of the episode.
Thank you for having me again to talk about anime mostly and music.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a really good show about Batman soundtracks.
I mean, yeah, it was pretty much, that. To be fair, a lot of those sections were either Danny Elfman or Hans Zimmer, to be honest, which ironically, we didn't plan that, people, but just turned out to be the case.
There's some really heavy hitters in the film composing world.
Oh yeah, definitely. And also go check out some, I'm going to say it now, go check out some TikToks of how composers of the 70s and 80s took inspiration from the 1800s. There's actually some interesting musical theory things there about how the Star Wars themes were actually inspired by 1800 songs. But yeah, no, right, that is it, people. If you'd like to get in contact with us, any questions, queries, or compliments, yes, I nailed it this time. Please feel free to email us at, if you're on the YouTube version, it's on the screen now. This will also be in the description for the show. nmipodcast@outlook.com. That's nmipodcast@outlook.com. Drop in some of your favorite film tracks if we're wrong with some of the films. Maybe like we didn't mention some of the tracks from the films that you really enjoy that we actually mentioned today. We'll read them out in future episodes. That's nmipodcast@outlook.com. Also search for our socials, Twitter and Instagram @NMIcast. Give us a like on there, give us a follow on there. Search for us on YouTube, NMI When You Need More Info. That's NMI When You Need More Info on YouTube. We'll be doing animated versions of the show. Again, to make sure people, we are looking at doing 2 episodes a week now. It'll be a news episode and a topic episode, because I know some people just want to get to the topic. The topic part of the topic episode will be the only one animated onto YouTube, because there's a lot of easy animated time for myself until we get all the Patreon bucks people. When we do that, eventually down the line, we got a lot more viewers and listeners and all you lovely people out there, the people. But yes, people, again, I'd like to thank James and Fergus for joining me today.
Thank you for having me once again.
Yeah, no, it's been good. Cheers, mate.
Right, people, you stay safe, everyone. Keep safe. And remember, use the Force. Or, I'm Batman. And go listen to all those amazing tracks, people. I'll see you next time. Stay safe, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.